Welcome to All Things IDD, hosted by the Arc of Wichita County. This podcast is a place where we share resources for those with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their families, raise awareness, as well as create a space for stories by and about those with disabilities. Today's episode is a conversation with a mom of 2 children on the autism spectrum. We discuss the importance of parents having supports and her 2 children leaving the home to live independently from their parents. We hope you enjoy. Whenever you said that you had some stories to tell, which I know you do.
Oh, yeah. A long list of stories. I've been doing this for 22 years.
Yeah. So if you can just, well, first of all, introduce yourself and then tell us a little bit about your family.
Okay. My name is Traci Roy, and my husband Mike, and I have raised 2 beautiful, special, kooky, crazy kids on the autism spectrum. Our daughter Holly is 21, and she is on the high end of the spectrum. She has Asperger's, and she was the one that introduced us to life in the parallel universe. And what a universe it's been. She is now a senior at Oklahoma Christian University, and she's an art major. I like to say she's a gifted artist, but I'm her mom, so I'm a little biased. And then we have her little brother, Eric, who's 18. He's on the other end of the spectrum. We like to say that he's a man of few words. And one of those words is hi-ya. So,
Otherwise known as the ninja.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
When he was younger, when he would get frustrated, he would screech. And it would just like make your ears bleed, screech. And we had to find a way for him to express that without it being so offensive to your ears. So one day he started saying hi-ya. I'm not Ninja Turtles, I think is where he got that. I'm not sure. But anyway, when he started doing that, we're like, yes, do that when you're upset. And he took it and ran with it, and he's been the ninja ever since. So, but yeah, he's 18. He graduated last year from high school, and we laugh about having the best of both worlds because we have one that talks all the time and one that doesn't talk at all. So it's like we have everything in between. So there's not much that we have not experienced in that world.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I love that. 2 ends of the spectrum, and I know you mentioned the alternate universe or parallel universe. Mm-hmm. What do you mean by that?
Oh, well, I think whenever you have kids, everybody has this idea of how their life's going to be. When you get married and you start thinking about starting a family, and you always think the daughter's going to be mom's mini-me, and the son's going to be dad's mini-me, and be the all-star football, work on cars, all the stuff dad likes to do. That's what you have in your head whenever your kids are tiny. And then whenever a disability of any kind, but I mean, in our case, it was autism, whenever that enters the picture, it's like your whole universe shifts from what you thought it was going to be into this parallel universe where everything looks the same, but not really. So from there, you're running parallel to quote unquote normal that everybody else is living, but your normal looks a little skewed from what they're living in. And that's what I mean about living in the parallel universe, because there's things that happen here that make a lot of the people cry, but we laugh at it because what else are you going to do, So, but yeah, that's what I mean by that.
And it almost sounds like a coping mechanism. Like we're here and you might see what I'm seeing, but like we're experiencing different realities.
Yes. It's very much, we went and saw that movie, the animated Spider-Man movie, Into the Spider-Verse. Mm-hmm. And I thought about that whenever we were sitting there watching that, about how that's a lot like our life is, because all the Spider-Men were in the same, they were all in the same realm, but they were all from different versions of that realm. And I thought, that's kind of how we live in life that we live. Yeah.
And you can kind of like at the Arc or wherever it may be, whenever you know that another parent has a child with disabilities, I'm assuming that you can kind of do that head nod of like,
oh yeah, you can spot it.
You.
Yeah.
I see you.
Yeah, your radar goes off. You're like, okay, that's what's happening right there. Yeah, I've even found myself spotting autism characteristics in a kid in the car next to me in traffic.
Oh wow.
I mean, my radar would be like, no, look over there, and this kid is like rocking in the seat, and mom's talking. I can tell by the way she's talking. I'm like, I feel you, lady. I do.
Yeah.
It's just funny how your radar will go off, and it's just like a homing mechanism onto other people that are living in the same part of the parallel universe as you. You know, it's pretty wild how that works.
Well, so after your kids were both diagnosed with autism and being on the spectrum, when was the first relationship that you found or friend that you found that also had a child with a disability, and what did that mean to you?
Oh gosh. It's funny that you asked me that because I just talked to her the other day. Her name is Misty Huff, and she was my original autism mama friend. Her son Grant is just a little bit older than Holly, and Grant is kind of between Holly and Eric. My son's name is Eric. He's kind of between those two, but Grant and Holly were in the same social speech therapy group at North Texas Rehab. So whenever we would come for therapy, the kids would go on in with the therapist, and Misty and I would sit out in the waiting room and laugh and cry and visit and just...
You got your own therapy.
Yes. We had therapy out in the lobby. And Misty has been a wonderful resource for me for all these years, 20 years. Well, no, I guess not 20. Holly's 21. She was 3, so 22 years. Wait, it's late at night. I can't do math. Right? A long time.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. So, but Misty, I mean, we talked every week like that for a long time, and I mean, obviously exchanged phone numbers and that kind of thing, and then they moved, but we stayed in touch. I mean, Facebook's been a really wonderful tool to stay in touch about that, and anytime a big life event happens, it seems like Misty's one of the first people that I call, even if we haven't talked in a very long time. Right. It's like I can call her, and it's like I just talked to her yesterday. She's been really great.
Yeah.
For a lot of things. I'm very thankful for her. And she may be the one that actually directed me to the ARC in the first place whenever it was time for Eric to be with someone besides mom.
So for the parents that might have just found out about their child's diagnosis, or maybe they've known about it for a while, but they haven't had that other parent friend, what would you encourage them to do?
Definitely go somewhere like the ARC and reach out to find other parents. Support is so important. If I hadn't had Misty, I would have been, I don't know where I would have been, without her. And it's kind of important to find other, I mean, I hate to say this, but you might want to edit this out. It's important to find your own kind. I don't know how else to say that, but other people that are in the same boat as you, because if you don't, it just starts feeling pretty quick like you're in a rowboat out in the middle of the ocean all by yourself, and isolation's it's not good. Yeah. So for you or your kids. So definitely find some place like the ARC to reach out and find a support group or something like that. Find other families that are dealing, because you'll be amazed at what they go through that's the same as what you go through, that y'all can laugh about it, cry about it, talk about it, whatever.
Make you feel a little less crazy or overwhelmed.
Oh, yeah. You don't feel like you're about to lose it.
Yeah. Yeah. Or if you are about to lose it, it's like, well, I know you're right there with me. So
come lose it with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Totally. Yeah. That's really important to find other people that are going through the same thing, so that you don't feel so alone and so isolated. Because I mean, I know I'm a little bit crazy, but it helps to be crazy when you live over here, so, but be fun crazy. Don't be like crazy.
Well, and I'll be sure in this podcast, in the description, to link different support groups that are on Facebook.
Okay.
I do know that there's Special Needs Wichita Falls.
Yes, that one's a good one.
There's an Autism.
Fast is a good one. Fast is a real good one. I think Misty actually started that one years and years ago.
So if you'll let everybody know what you'd been doing for a year or 2 years.
About for a year before COVID hit, Mike and I were trying to run a special needs support group for the parents. Because whenever you have kids with disabilities, it becomes all about them real quick. and you kind of, it starts to feel like you're just kind of get shoved over into the corner as a parent, and you're not you anymore. You're like, I was Holly and Eric's mom. I wasn't me, and it was like my whole life revolved around what they needed and what was best for them, and thinking, it's like you lose yourself really quick. And the support group was really about self-care for the caregivers, because if you don't take care of yourself and you don't make the time to refill your cup, you don't have anything to pour out for anyone else. So it's kind of important to do that. Find some place where all that stuff that's rolling around in your head can come out of your mouth and get it, because if you let it roll around in your head, it eventually gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it just turns into a mental health disaster.
Sure.
Speaking from experience, it's not good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a lot of it can be prevented by finding other people in the same boat to talk to.
Right.
So.
And I love that too, because it's like just that relating to each other. It's not necessarily that you're fixing anything.
No, you're not.
You can't.
No.
In some senses, and so I love that it's, hey, this is where I am, and I accept you where you are. Will you accept me where I am? And
it's a judgment-free place to say anything. There's nothing good, bad, right, wrong. Just say what's on your mind, no matter what it sounds like, because it needs to be gotten out.
Right. Yeah.
So it's just, that's really important. And that's what we were looking for, or trying to do, was make a place where parents like us, because if we had that resource a long time ago, we might have been a little better off than we were in the beginning. Our life's pretty great right now. It has been for the last quite a few years, actually. But when Eric was little bitty, we had a period of time for about 4 years, though, that we called the dark days, because we couldn't leave the house. We couldn't go to church. We couldn't go to the grocery store. And we tag team, we'd tap in, tap out, who got to go somewhere, because he couldn't go anywhere. It was just too much.
Yeah.
We couldn't have people over. We couldn't do anything, and that was a really hard time. It's hard on your marriage. It's hard on your family. It's hard on their siblings. It's just tough.
Right.
And it's funny, people who know Eric now are like, he was never that way. Because he's like the sweetest thing ever now. But dadgum, back then, he was a hard ninja to live with back then. So, but yeah, I think if we had someone to talk to, and I had Misty, but I hated to bother her. I would have been calling her whining and crying every day, 2 or 3 times a day. It was ridiculous.
Well, and that's one of the things that you can be so thankful for technology. What's different now versus whenever you were parenting your two, whenever they were little, is Facebook and social media, also social media, podcasts, even.
Yes. I would have Zoomed all day long every day back then. Help me.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yep.
Yeah, it'd have been bad. But at least I wouldn't have been all alone.
Right. It's that togetherness that's so important.
Yes.
That's good. Well, and I hope too, by putting this podcast out there, my biggest hope is that people would be helped, but especially that people wouldn't feel alone.
Yes.
That they would know there's other parents out there. There are other people with disabilities like them.
There's hope. That's the main. That's what we were looking to do with the support group, was to let other parents that are just starting out, that are still kind of in that deer in the headlights phase, know that there is light at the end of this tunnel. There is hope. I mean, our kids are, walking, I would say talking. Our kids are living proof of that. Right. that there is hope for them to have their best life.
Right. Yeah, and so let's hear a little bit about that. I actually haven't gotten the update firsthand.
Oh, you haven't, have you?
No, I heard secondhand, but
yeah.
So we have Holly is your oldest, Eric is your youngest.
Yes.
2 ends of the spectrum and 2 life journeys that they have now ventured off onto.
They are living adult life, and we are empty nesters, which is something that we never... Honestly, I mean, we hoped someday, before we were too old to enjoy it, that it would happen, but we never dreamed in a million years it would be now, at 21 and 18. And
it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, Holly went away to college, which is something that I honestly just thought, oh, she's just going to live at home and go to MSU and ride the bus, because girl ain't got enough. No, her reaction time is not good enough to drive. That was always my thinking on it, but. When she got into this program for kids with disabilities at Oklahoma Christian, I was like, she can't live on her own. There's no way. Her dog will starve to death, you know. I have to tell her to do everything. And my goodness, I completely underestimated her. And now she's in her 4th year of living away at college. She's 2.5 hours away. Summer before last, she got her driver's license, which scared me to death. But and this last year, she has started driving herself back and forth from school for breaks. First time she did that, she drives a electric blue Volkswagen Beetle, and which is quite the artist car because it's got the flowers on the headlights and the whole bit. Yeah, it suits her though.
So
she's such a hippie,
Yeah.
you know, and that car suits her down, you know, perfectly. And the first time she drove home, I prayed a hedge of protection around that Beetle because I'm like, Lord, just get her home so that I can breathe. I can't hold my breath for 2.5 hours. But she made it home, and she's done it several times since then. And I'm just like, okay, she's adulting. It's okay. And now she's making plans to get an apartment with her best friend whenever she graduates. So, you know, that's a big relief off. And then I thought, okay, well, it'll just be us and Eric and the dogs for the next infinity and beyond years, you know. Well, where Eric was concerned, I knew group home life was probably where his adulthood would be, but the thought of it was just nauseating to me because I'm like, anybody who's ever met him knows what I'm talking about. He's such a kind, gentle, sweet soul, you know, and just the thought of a place like that, what it would do to him, just made me want to just have a panic attack. I'm like, no, I can't do it. So I would joke about God's going to let me live forever so we don't have to deal with that. You know, and I'm knowing in the back of my head it's not true, but then I'm kind of going, well, I'll have to address it, but someday, but today's not that day. So I was just kind of go on with life. And then he's in the bridge program at the ARC, which is really great. His best friend, he met his best friend there, and they've been the poster child for the ARC and Hands to Hands and everything else since then. So, which I'm really proud of that. I'm like, oh, look at my famous ninja, you know. So at the urging of Danita from the ARC, she was taking the kids in the bridge program to tour one of the group homes from High Plains Healthcare. I told her I'd come because I love Danita. I'd do anything for her. And I told her I'd come. And that day that I really was just, I don't want to do this. I'm going to do it just because she asked me to. And that day I'd had a really horrendous day at work, and I almost bailed. And when I got there, I realized I was the only parent that came. And I thought, okay, I'm glad I came so Danita, you know, I don't want her to feel bad about nothing. And I went, and that tour was a game changer for us because I went into that tour thinking group homes are horrible places where they're just warehoused and babysat and nobody takes care of them. You know, it was just bad. And I came out of that tour thinking, this is the life I want for him. This is awesome. These people are happy. They live productive lives. They do things. They have friends. They're busy. Most of them have jobs. I was just blown away by how happy and loved these people were by people who were not their family.
Yeah.
You know, and I was just like, this is what I want for him when I'm not here anymore. Mm-hmm. And I knew that it was extremely difficult to get in there because when they get in, they never leave.
Right. Yeah.
And it's not a big corporate organization, so it's not like this is a chain. This is a private owned, you know. And I thought, okay, well, I put his name on the list, or put his name in the pot, however you want to look at it. And I prayed about it and just kind of went back to my life. That was about 1.5 years ago. And anytime anybody would ask me about what his future looked like, I would say, well, someday I hope we can get into there. And that would be the end of it. Well, about a month ago, a little over a month ago, I guess, I get a phone call out of the blue that there is a spot open at one of the all-male houses. They have 4 houses here in town. And I get this phone call that there's a spot open at one of the guy houses, and Eric's a candidate. And when I hung up from that phone call, I shut the door on my office and just sat there and stared out the window for a minute, trying to get my head around what just happened. And I'm just like, part of me is just going, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. I'm so excited. And then another part of me is like, no, he's too young. I'm not ready. He's my baby man, you know? So I just sat there and thought about it for a minute. And then I got up and I told my coworker, I said, okay, I'm going to have lunch with my husband right now. I picked my purse up and walked out the door. I went down to my husband's work and we sat in his car and talked circles around it for like an hour and finally came to the conclusion that we did want to move forward with this. We went and toured the house, and one of the first things I noticed, Eric loves the Avengers and Marvel stuff. I mean, the kid loves some superhero stuff, you know. And one of the first things I noticed was that every room is shared by two people, but each individual side of the room is so different. You know, you can tell it's their space. It's done the way they want. It's just really great. And one of the first rooms we saw, one side of it looked like it could have been Eric's room. I mean, there's Marvel stuff everywhere. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really great. You know, my first thought was, oh, maybe he could swap with this kid on the other side, you know.
Ready to move in.
Oh yeah. I was like, okay, when can we start? So, and then after we visited with the house supervisor and Karen for quite some time. And one of the things that I was really horrified about this whole thing, I thought, you know, Eric can probably do this. How do I tell him what we're doing without him feeling like we don't want him anymore, we don't love him anymore? I was terrified about that. And I thought, if I can't figure out how to do that, we're not doing this. I can't do that. She suggested that, she said, you know, she goes, I've spent a little bit of time with him up at Bridge, and she said, he's pretty smart. She said, he's seen this before. She said, Holly, when she turned 18, she moved out, went away to college. She still comes back. Y'all still love her. Y'all are still a family. Just tell him, you're 18. It's time to go away to college. Mm-hmm. This is how you learn to be a grown-up.
Right.
And you have to go live at college to go to college.
Thanks so much for listening to Traci and I talk about her family. Join us on the next episode to hear about Eric's transition into the group home. And friends, be good to yourself.